All right, we're going to call this meeting to order. We got Michelle Boylan, come on up. We're doing a workshop on the Main Street program. So, Michelle, take it away.
Do you want to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, Mayor?
Oh, we'll do that.
Skip it?
We're
Okay,
good, we're
perfect.
good.
It was in here. I'm just trying to follow protocol. Good morning, everybody. Mayor and commissioners, thank you for joining us this morning as we discuss the topic of the Main Street program. We'll learn today about the Florida Main Street program and address the potential for formalizing the Apopka Main Street program. So with that, I have the pleasure this morning of introducing Catherine Beck. She is the state coordinator for the Florida Main Street program. Following the conclusion of her presentation, I will be giving my remarks. I have a couple slides here, and I've provided you with some additional documentation about what we'll be discussing. I'm certain Catherine will be open to questions during her presentation or after, but I think we'll talk about a lot of your questions in the slides following. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Catherine.
Perfect. Good morning. Good morning. Thank you so much, and thank you for the audience participation. This is a very important part of Main Street, is to have community involvement. So I appreciate so much seeing members of the community come in and have an opportunity to listen and learn. So this is a high-level discussion about what Main Street is, and certainly afterwards, more than happy to delve into questions with you. So the first question we always get is, what is Main Street? And there are many misconceptions about what Main Street is. Main Street at its core is economic development. What Main Street does is use your existing assets, your historic assets, as part of that toolkit and helping you maintain and establish your individual identity as a Main Street community. So what do we do? As the Main Street program, we provide technical assistance. We are housed within the Florida Department of State, within the Division of Historical Resources. We provide technical assistance to our communities. We do many trainings throughout the year. We bring in consultants in the field. We keep up with growing trends. We're associated with National Main Street. We open those resources up to our communities. So we are your information flow. One of the favorite things that I ever heard about Main Street came from Ed McMahon, and this is the different Ed McMahon. Oh. And he made the point. He said, people stay longer and spend more money in places that attract our affection, but no place in America will stay special by accident. Main Street is very design-oriented. It is guided, it is structured, it is a model. So why is your downtown important? And over the years, there's been a lot of studies that have been done, and you all know the progression. We started with our downtowns. They were our livelihoods. They were our businesses. They were a place where information was obtained. It was a place where people came to relax, to meet one another, to socialize. The malls came, and we lost our downtowns. And unfortunately, what moved into a lot of our downtowns were not necessarily items that weren't needed, but it was a lot of social services. It was a lot of consultants. It was a lot of things that did not bring people into your downtown to spend time, to understand your downtown, to get to know the history of your downtown. And a lot of our downtowns were lost. And when you lose your downtown, you lose the spirit of your community. So your downtown infrastructure has been a major investment for this community. Since you settled, since you organized, since you began putting money into infrastructure, you've made a huge investment in that downtown area. Don't walk away from it. You know, your downtown has an impact on your property values because your property values emanate from your core. And if your core is not maintained, if your core does not produce, does not respond, does not return to the community, concentric circles occur, and those impact your property values. It's the heart of your community. As I said, downtown was a place for socialization. It's where people came together. It's where important community events occurred. It's why your city hall is here. This is the heart of your community. And you should maintain that as best you can. And it's an important public space. It's a space for people to come. It's a space for them to see art. It's a space for them to see culture. It's a place for their children to play. So all those things pour into why is your downtown important and why should you protect it? Why should you strive to have that downtown be strong? So downtown is your economic engine. We firmly believe that. Downtown is made up of small businesses. Small businesses are what support this country. Florida particularly is home to a lot of small businesses. We don't have big industry here, with the exception of Disney. We don't have big industry here, right? I mean, it is our small businesses that keep our communities vibrant. So with the independent family-owned business, again, one of our big stakeholders in the Main Street, they conservatively provide over $88 million a year in sales tax revenue throughout the state of Florida. This is a 2017 number. Property taxes, your property taxes grow as you increase your commercial impact. So what is the cost of a downtown empty space? Again, this is from a 2017 study by Donovan Ripkema. Donovan Ripkema has Place Economics. He is considered the national leader in Main Street economic analysis. So when you look at what happens with an empty storefront, this is per storefront, you've lost sales, you've lost employee payroll, you've lost rent, you've lost business profits, business property taxes, bank deposits, loans, sales tax to your government, utilities, and advertising. The average on that is over $400,000 per vacant space. Now, let's look at the big box versus your small town. Yeah, everybody wants Walmart, everybody wants Costco, and those are great, great assets in your community. But look at what they do to your revenue base. It's a lot of space that's taken up. And when you look at what the taxes per acre are on a Walmart versus your downtown commercial district, it's a huge difference. Now, that little store isn't going to pay you $83,000, but that cumulative total of 5 or 6 stores in that space are going to pay you that $83,000. So it's a big impact. And the infrastructure cost is huge too, because these smaller buildings don't need the same amount of infrastructure that Walmart and Costco need. So this is the 101. This is the high view. What is Main Street? We're historic preservation. We're economic development. We are commercial development. We are inclusive. We are a public-private partnership. We are grassroots and community-driven. And we hope that our concepts transfer to your entire community. And those concepts are community pride, they're community strength, they're reinvestment in your community. It's a long-term vision for your community. It's a reason to say, where do I want my children to be in 30 or 40 years? Do I want them to come back? So we use a 4-point approach. This approach was created in 1980 by the National Main Street Center. We think that it is a valid approach. We have seen tremendous success with this approach over the 45 years. Florida's program is 40 years old this upcoming year. National program is 45 years old. There have been over 1,600 Main Street communities throughout the nation. There are 47 coordinating programs. 42 of those are state programs, 5 of those are city or county programs. So our 4 points are promotion. It's talking about your area, letting the world know who you are, what you are. Design, very important to keep your design standards in place in a Main Street district. This is what maintains your identity. It's what keeps up your values. It provides that structural framework for what that district looks like. Economic vitality, that's reinvestment in that corridor. That's businesses coming in. That's new property owners coming in. It's people coming in and spending time and money in your district. An organization, that is the basis of the program, the local program. Go back to this. So one of the things we talk with communities about is a transformation strategy. And this does not mean you have to change who you are. What this means is you have to decide who you want to be based on who you are. And if you're in an area and you want to bring businesses back to your downtown because you have a high vacancy rate, so what does that strategy look like? What is needed to be put in place to bring businesses back to that downtown? Maybe you're in an area where you have a lot of retail but no restaurant. So you want to become more of a family-friendly restaurant environment. It's the things that you need. Maybe it's public arts. Maybe you need to bring public art into that district. So the transformation strategies are short-term 3 to 5 year strategies that you implement to say, this is the direction we need to start taking. This is the framework we need to start laying. And those transformation strategies will change over time. They may become larger. They may condense. They may start bifurcating. But it's always that vision and that planning. Main Street is long-term. It is not an overnight fix for a community. We encourage our programs to get the low-hanging fruit first, to show the communities that you're there, that you're doing things, do the things that are quick and easy to see, but have that long-term planning in place. With a Main Street program, you'll start noticing changes after about 3 years. At 5 years, it's all of a sudden like, wow, this is really working. And at 10 years, you won't remember what it looked like. But it is incremental. So the return on investment, again, 2017 study, at that time, the return on investment was $38 for every $1 invested of public dollars. Now, this is an interesting number. This is during the 2008 recession. And you can see how our Main Street programs performed in terms of business growth as opposed to businesses in Florida. I will tell you our numbers were very similar during COVID. We did not lose businesses. We gained businesses. We gained jobs. So our total reinvestment numbers, this is as of December 31, 2023. Total reinvestment for Florida Main Streets, and this is public-private dollars, $6.9 billion, and it runs about 50%. So private investment was a little bit more. They were actually about 52%. Public investment was 48%. Net gain in jobs, 34,000. Net gain in businesses, almost 11,000. And the number of volunteer hours, and this is what to me is so impressive. 1.6 million hours of volunteer time have been put into our communities. And that shows the strength of the programs. That shows how much these communities want this program, how invested your public is in these programs, and it's what makes a program work. So what are our principles? We are comprehensive in our planning. We are incremental. We are community-driven and grassroots. We believe strongly in public-private partnership. We want to use your existing assets. Again, those existing assets, particularly in Florida, are very important because that's going to help you maintain your identity. You know, I tell people things. I can stand in front of a building in Rosemary Beach and Celebration in South Beach, and I can ask you where I am, and you can't tell me where I am. You need to maintain your individual identity. That's what's going to set you apart from any other community. And particularly here, you have a lot of development pressure in this area. Everybody has a Subway, everybody has, Chick-fil-A, everybody has all those things. What do you have that's you? What makes you different? Quality of your programming area and of the businesses you attract into that area, change. You need to understand that the dynamics are changing, particularly in Florida, and the way to maintain and adjust to that change is to plan for it. And then you have to be implementation oriented. We tell our boards, these are not thought-provoking boards. These are working boards. The biggest tragedy I've seen in a program is for them to say, Mr. Mayor, wouldn't you like to be on our board? It's an hour a month, but it's not. It's 15 to 20 hours a month. We demand a lot out of our board members because if we don't do the work, why would the community come and participate and volunteer and do the work? It's a heavy lift. Main Street is not all fun and games, and that's what people think because they see us out there, they see us doing the promotion. Oh, we're having First Fridays, we're doing wine walks. That's the very top layer. That's not the work of Main Street. The work of Main Street is reinvigorating that corridor and maintaining that corridor so that your structure and your integrity are consistent. So how do you succeed? A program this size will need a full-time executive director. And when we say full-time, that means probably 50 to 60 hours a week. You need to follow the 4-point approach. You have to have that commitment to succeed. You know, you're going to get a lot of pushback in a Main Street. You're going to try things and they don't work, and that's okay, particularly when you're starting off as a Main Street. You know, you're going to have a party and nobody's going to come. Okay, that wasn't a good idea. We won't do that one again. You know, and you build on those successes and you learn from the ones that are not so successful, right? You have to have a unified vision in your downtown, and this is where that partnership with the city, with the CRA, with your community is so important. Because if you have a program that has their own idea and it's not supported by the stakeholders, then you don't have a program and you're not going to have a success. You have to have a strong commitment to your board. Partnerships, again, are essential. You have to understand that your success is incremental. Again, you are not going to see immediate, big-scale success in this. Downtown is never finished. It is constantly evolving, and it should be, because the needs of our communities constantly evolve. And without risk, there is no reward. We think that the largest reward you can have would be 10 years from now, looking back and seeing that area be engaged, being activated, people smiling, people coming back. That's your success story. Look at the land. And I always hold the land up because when the land came into this program, they had a 95% vacancy rate in their downtown. And it was not a good place to be. And it took time. It took time for them. Now, they will be 40 years old next year. They were one of our first program areas, but they were consistent. That relationship with the city and the CRA was strong. Their board is strong. They have 33 board members now. That's a large board, but they have 33 engaged board members, and I cannot tell you how many volunteers they have. They have hundreds of volunteer bases. And everyone is committed to what they do. Does that mean things are roses all the time? No. You got 33 people on a board, you're going to have different concepts, but that's okay because you need to hear that because you don't want your board to get tunnel vision. You know, again, we talk about your community evolves. You need to be cognizant of changes within the community and what the needs are that are represented by those changes within your community. So it takes time, it takes preservation, you know, it takes commitment from the city because Main Street will come to you as a city and say, some of these ordinances aren't helping us maintain this district. We need to look at some changes. You always hope you can do those in partnership. And you can do this through discussions and that you don't have a, you know, angry group of business owners in here saying, we need this, you know, and that's the role of Main Street is to help facilitate a lot of those issues that your local businesses run up against every day that as policymakers you may be totally unaware of because you have a policy that you think makes a lot of sense, but you're not implementing, you're not practicing. So for these business owners, and the dynamics are changing in business, particularly with young entrepreneurs, and what they want and need is very different. They don't need that 1,000 square feet. You might have 6 small businesses in 1,000 square feet. Your code may not allow that. So there are a lot of things that are changing, and it's a very liquid dynamic right now in the business community. So those are some of the areas where, as partners and stakeholders, this relationship will be key for you. So your do's and don'ts: do have a public-private partnership. Work to change attitudes towards your downtown, because a lot of people, well, no place to go, it's not safe, it's not secure. Those are the things you've got to address. And those are the challenges that have to be overcome. Don't overemphasize parking. That's everybody's first thing. We don't have enough parking. People will walk. If they have a reason to walk, they'll walk. And that's part of that streetscaping and that engagement. When people see things, when they have something that keeps their eye moving, they don't realize they're walking 2 and 3 blocks. If they're walking past buildings that are boarded up and closed and there's no activity, that's a long 2 or 3 blocks. Don't study downtown to death. Listen to your community, listen to your businesses. You know at the heart. I mean, and we use consultants all the time, don't misunderstand me. But when you bring somebody in from outside who's looking at a model, they're going to give you a model. You need to understand what your community wants first, and that's where the visionings come in. It's getting that base understanding of what the community thinks will work, what the dynamic is. Then you can take that base information and then go to the consultant and say, what works here? But always listen to your community. Don't expect 100% cooperation from business leaders, from your public, from your boards. You're never going to have 100% cooperation. It's like when I look at a political candidate, I go, well, if I get 7 out of 10, I'm good, right? So that's probably about the number you're looking for. If you can get 70% cooperation, you're in good shape. And don't look for home runs. Again, it's not a home run game. It's that incremental. Let's get to first base. Let's get to second. Well, maybe we can skip from second to home, but don't look for that home run. Questions and answers.
All right.
Oh, that was
Mr. Vasquez?
that was a really good presentation. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
kind of touching up on a couple of things here. You're right about we need to kind of start small. And right now we kind of have we're building up our city downtown center right now. You did talk about, empty retail spaces. We don't have that right now. But it's something that we're trying to look at to see how can we kind of connect all our spaces. Right now, we're kind of working on that. But I will say this about what we have started, and I have been supporting. We just started, I think this is the second time we've done the market on 5th. And what I was impressed with was all the vendors that came. And you're right, they don't all want a storefront, but they want a place where they can be consistently coming to do their business. And a lot of those vendors had really great products. And when I asked them, how did you get started? Where are you working from? The majority were working from home.
Right.
And so I want to be able to provide a kind of a permanent space for them to come and just, every Friday or Saturday, or, that they know that they can come to this space and create some business for themselves. And certainly, where our residents can come and say, oh, that vendor was there. She's there every Saturday. That's how they start the farmers market, and I'm seeing that that's how most of the main streets are starting, is a consistency with their vendors.
Right.
So I am looking forward to doing that. The other thing that you were talking about is certainly design. How do we define ourselves here in the city of Apopka? And I kind of got an idea of who we are as far as that's concerned. And I hope that, as we move forward, that we continue to kind of build on that architect that we are known for. Because you're right, that's what defines us. And the economic vitality, and you're right, in order to get our downtown going, we have to have something, an engine going, that people feel that when they come here, they can kind of stay and be around. And I'm thinking, I'm trying to think all the little businesses that we do have going around. The parking lot that we upgraded has been a blessing. And I think because that was really the foundation for our downtown. Because without it, when it was very dark and it was unkept and blighted, no one was coming.
Right.
Now they're just coming. I don't know where they're coming from, but they feel safe because the parking lot is upgraded. It's got lighting, it's got lines, it's got structure, and people feel safe. And we've been using that with whenever we have anything going on downtown, we use that parking lot as a gathering. So that seems to be the one that we've been gathering. And then the other thing you touched upon that we have been doing, and I've been excited and been supporting it, has been the murals, the art. Art and culture is so important in every community because it really brightens up the area. And we've been doing that. Now, the one thing that we're kind of lacking in the downtown is I would love to see a library come in, because I think a library would bring not just people to come socialize, but the younger people to come into a library, because the technology now in the libraries is no longer just books.
Right.
It's all of that. So that's another big investment. And of course, I've been following one of our neighboring cities, and they just voted. I mean, the community literally voted for it because they felt that that is an engine that will continue to build their community.
Right.
So we have a lot to do. And like you said, it's not overnight. It's a slow process, but definitely we would have to kind of set a strategic plan.
Right.
So that, the reality of all cities is we have local government that changes every 4 years. And so what you want to be able to do is as those local government boards change, that they're embracing and continuing to build on that. So that's something that we definitely want to work on. And we just hired an economic developer director, so I'm looking forward to that. But thank you so much. You gave us so much to think about and how to set this up. And we definitely want to support our Main Street, to build it up. So thank you.
Well, thank you for your comments.
Mr. Smith.
Thank you. Great presentation, and something that I would strongly support. When I met with them some months ago, and they introduced themselves, I like the idea that they had vision. They were thinking outside of the box, and so something that I think will bring some value to our downtown area. One thing that probably stuck out to me most during your presentation was what makes us different. And so I like that, and I want to make sure that we stick that somewhere, we keep that in mind and in sight, so we make sure that there is something that makes us different so that we stand out and can attract those people to come to downtown. And I think our board has been very cooperative when it comes to policy changes and making codes changes that will make it easier for development. And I strongly support small business. As you said, that's where our bread and butter is. And so we want to make sure that we provide those opportunities here in the city of Apopka, that we keep our residents here rather than allowing them to go elsewhere. Right. And so, great presentation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Nesta?
Absolutely. Ms. Beck, thank you for your presentation. Are we able to get a copy of that sent to us? Your presentation itself?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. I appreciate that. I just always like having that in our files to go back to
Sure.
and recap. So I do want to thank you for your time. I got a couple different questions, and one comment, the one that caught me the most was wine walks. I would like a lot more of that. That sounds nice. That sounds like a really good plus for the community.
Would you like to volunteer for that?
Yes, I will head that up, no problem. But I had a couple different questions. So in reference to who we want to be or kind of our identity, personally, I don't feel we have a very specific, there's not one cohesive, we've got a lot of history here, but there's not one identity. Is that something that Main Street creates for us or helps derive? Or is that something
It does
we need to
not
be
create
creating?
that for you. What it will do is hold visionings with your community, and from your community input, that's where that identity will start to emerge.
Okay.
Because you will see consistency. You know, a very simple exercise is to ask this room 10 words. Everybody write down 10 words. What does this community mean to you, right? And then you feed it in, you do the analysis on it, and you come up with what that community skeleton is. And it's very interesting to see. And there will be a lot of consistency among this entire community as to what they think this community is, good and bad. Good and bad. I mean, things will pop that you'll go, oh, didn't even know about that.
Sure.
But it's rumbling, right? And so that's part of that visioning process that Main Streets are so beneficial for, because they're not the city. All right. And they're not some consultant coming in and saying, well, what is this? This is community to community. This is them talking to the people. This is putting out the surveys. This is saying, tell us who we are. What do you see? What's good? What's bad? What do you want us to be?
Nice. Okay, I like that. And then that kind of leads me to, does Main Street Apopka, or will Main Street Apopka act as somewhat of an advisory board to our commission or our council to let us know our strengths, weaknesses, where we can help promote? Does it act in that capacity, or is that?
Well, they generally don't act as an advisory board. They generally act as more of a partner,
Okay.
and a stakeholder. It is part of their role to advise you what's going on. And like I said, to come and say, these ordinances are restrictive. We're having problems with this,
Sure.
or we need to look at this. But hopefully what you would have is someone, frankly, at every council meeting who is sitting there that can interchange, and minimally every quarter getting an update from them to say, these are the things that are happening. These are the successes. These are issues we're looking at, so that you have that open dialogue and relationship. It depends on how you set them up. Some programs set up more within the CRA environment and work through that as opposed to directly to the city. So it depends on where you think that partnership and that stakeholder relationship lie.
Okay, thank you. What Chamber of Commerce, how does that partner with Main Street, or how does that look? How does that fit into this puzzle?
So Chambers and Main Street should actually be very strong partners. Now, their mission is a little bit different. We all want the same end results, right? But Chambers' mission is advocacy, it is policy development, and it is job recruitment, all right? Main Street's role is to help maintain the integrity of that corridor so that when the Chambers are bringing people in, they can bring them to this downtown and go, we've got this vibrant downtown going. So they should work hand in hand. There should be no crossover of roles. It should be very clear as to what it is. Now, what you will find will happen once you have an established Main Street, businesses will start contacting that executive director to say, what's going on down there? Is there room down there? So hopefully that relationship's in part that the director then's calling the chamber director and saying, we're going to have lunch with this person. But, you don't want to get in each other's paths. And I'm
Right.
very clear on that.
Good. Okay. Yeah, and just curious on that one, because it seems like there could be a potential for crossover or things like that. So want to make sure that we're using our resources that make the most sense as much as possible. One of our packets that we were just handed, which lots of good information that I went through, it goes through local municipalities that were recently accredited. Thank you. and so what it does is it says recent accreditations, population, city contribution, and the source. What I'm seeing is that some of this, some are up to $150,000, which is pretty impressive, but they're coming from the CRA either through a grant or just the CRA in general. Can we fund Main Street through the CRA? What does that look like?
You can fund certain things through the CRA. And I'm going to tell you to talk to your city attorney about that. 2019, there was an opinion that came down that said CRAs cannot pay for promotion and marketing materials. So I think what most of the CRAs are doing now is they are doing the scope of services that the Main Street can do, but they are not paying for promotion and marketing materials. The Main Street has to raise that funding
Separately.
from a different way. Now, others are just taking directly now from general funding.
Okay.
So
Is that what you would recommend? What would you recommend on that?
you're going to have to look at your numbers and see if you've got a CRA and you've got an investment plan for that CRA, and there are opportunities for your Main Street to help enact that plan. That's a good funding source. Now, so maybe you do that and you look at TDC dollars. Maybe you've got tourist development dollars, right? That you could do some of the marketing and promotion contribution from.
Sure.
You know, so you're going to have to look at those budgets. Again, I'm going to tell you, talk to your city attorney and see where they are comfortable coming in on what the CRA can actively support and cannot support.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then, I mean, I see $50,000, and I see that on a general budget as well. $50,000, is that like the minimum, or what is expected from the city? What's that look like?
No, that's kind of like the normal number, but there's no expectation. I mean, we have cities that cities do different things. Some of it's in kind. They may give office space. They may give, waivers on, when you have these promotional events, okay, we're going to provide the security and we're going to provide whatever permitting and everything else as an in-kind. So there are different ways to facilitate what that partnership looks like. At the end of the day, there is obviously some cash that's necessary to run a program,
Yes.
right? But there are other ways to also support that program. So you just have to look at it, and you have to decide what that value is on your services. Now, what I will say to you is the first few years of a Main Street developing is when their financial need is greatest. And you truly do not want a program that's in a position of having to fundraise to keep the lights on, because that's all they're going to do is fundraise. And that is not helping you. It's not helping the program. It's not helping the community. So that's why if you can really implement that scope of services and have a steady amount of income coming in that can pay that executive director, that can pay overhead, gives them a little bit of project development money so they can do some of the things they need to do to get it to go, that, you don't want to hamstring them. Because again, if they have to raise the money to survive, they will.
Sure.
But that's all they're going to do because it takes a lot.
No, so what I hear, and that's my last comment that I'll make, is that we need to get behind them, let them do their thing up front, support as much as possible, and then it'll kind of create itself from there.
Right,
Okay.
right.
I appreciate everything. This is really exciting, and I'm looking forward to our Main Street program really taking off.
Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.
Thank you. Well, Catherine, thank you for coming down from Tallahassee. I appreciate you carving out some time for the city of Apopka. We really appreciate your efforts and great presentation. And what Michelle's going to come up and kind of go through some statistics and all that. So, but one of the things I'd love to do, Michelle and Catherine, is put her presentation up on our website so we can do your presentation and as well as Michelle's. And so a lot of great information. So thank you again for coming down and being a part of this. This
Well, thank
workshop.
you. I appreciate the invitation.
Absolutely.
And I would encourage you to consider coming to the Palms 24 in Tallahassee this year, July 10th through the 13th. We do an annual conference in conjunction with the Florida Trust for Historic Preservation. It's 3 days. It's very intense. And if you truly are looking at implementing a Main Street program as policy leaders, it would probably do you justice to come and listen to other people there, understand how those programs are working, and understand truly what our core relationship is with these programs.
Would you
And what is
send
that
that
called
to
again?
us?
That's July 10th through the 13th in Tallahassee.
And what is it called?
POMS 24. It's POMS 24.
POMS.
Stands for Preservation on Main Street.
And it's July,
10th through the 13th.
is that on the website?
We have a website that is a placeholder right now. We're currently building the program. It should go live the 15th of April.
Okay. And then for registration is also
That
on there?
registration and everything will be involved right there.
Okay. And it'll have a program of what each day is about?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Awesome. Well, thank you. I don't know if you want to stay and let Michelle, if you've got time, we'd love to have you stay for Michelle's presentation. And
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
bring some additional questions from our.
Thank you all so very
Commissioner.
much.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Catherine, and Commissioner Nesta for stealing my thunder. If you would have just gave me 5 more minutes.
I'm
we'll
sorry, I didn't know if we were going to go
question.
all through it or not. So, and you know how I skimmed stuff really quick, so.
No worries.
Caught my attention, sorry.
But no, thank you, Catherine, for your presentation. It is apparent that this is a program that could serve our community, and we do see the need for it. One thing I would like to point out up front is that no form of development happens overnight. Whether it's economic development, if it's community development, business development, nothing happens overnight. And so just making sure we're all, understanding of that is very important. So my approach to today's topic was to really take a look at how we would formalize the Main Street Apopka program. This is going to kind of touch on the business side of things. We know it's necessary. We know that the community wants it. Clearly, there is support here as well for the program, but how will we formalize this moving forward? So some of the questions you've already asked about the overlap in activities, or how do we define the different activities amongst the different organizations? And this was one of my struggles when I first came in the door. We have a lot of different branding for the chamber, for Main Street, for the CRA, for economic development. There's no consistency in branding and how we're marketing ourselves as a community. So when Caitlin reached out and requested a meeting with all of those organizations, we were more than happy to sit down and have a conversation. What you're seeing in front of you here is a condensed version of a table that I provided during this meeting, which should be a clear understanding and delineation of the responsibilities across those different entities. So what you're not seeing is the economic development department side, and you're not seeing the chamber side. You're just seeing a comparison here of the CRA and the Main Street, because what I've learned over the course of years of working with CRAs and Main Streets is they do work hand in hand, and there is overlap in some of the activities and the mission and all of that. So it is very important that they're strong partners. But you would also see, if I had provided this full table, that there will be overlap with the chamber and with the economic development department, the CRA, Main Street. But that's not meant to be perceived as we're stepping on each other's toes, but more that we can serve as an extension to each other's teams. How can we work well together? How can we partner together to support the community? So I don't want to walk through every single item here, but really the support of entrepreneurship and small business development, it's going to happen at all levels. It's going to go hand in hand, bringing in those businesses and helping them to be successful in our community. One item I want to look at is providing networking opportunities for businesses and fostering collaboration. That's going to happen both at your Main Street and at your chamber. And with a community of our size, these organizations are going to tap into the same businesses for resources, looking for support from the same businesses. So there has to be a partnership there. You don't want to go rogue and do your own thing. You want to make sure that you are clearly defining how these two organizations or entities are working well together to get that support. Offering resources and support services, that's going to happen at all levels. And you might not see the check mark here for the Main Street program, but it will occur. And I do see a need to revise this table because, as you may know, the economic development team here, the CRA team here, they're, a strong team of one. And that's what the Main Street program will be as well. So it is essential that we are all promoting each other, that we are working together, promoting each other, understanding all of our missions and our needs and how we can do this cohesively and not individually. It's not a competition. Developing and implementing redevelopment plans and strategies, that's going to be the CRA and the Main Street. So you definitely want to make sure that those two entities are working hand in hand together. Organizing, I already mentioned events, but promoting and marketing the downtown area as a destination for residents, visitors, and businesses. Again, a community of this size, there's going to be overlap. You're going to see that with the Chamber Foundation. You're going to see that with the Main Street. Unless we set boundaries and say that one organization cannot promote an event in those boundaries and the other one can, I don't think that's not the cohesive approach we're looking for. So, again, this is going to be an opportunity for each of these entities to work well together should we choose to formalize the program. And just to go back to that, I wrote up there very clearly, not only is this a delineation of responsibilities, but this is to enhance collaboration, avoid duplication, and to maximize the effectiveness of each organization's initiatives. That's key. During our conversation, I made a recommendation that we start meeting monthly, bi-monthly, something of that nature, but to bring the organizations together so that we're all on the same page. It won't do anything but benefit the community. So in the packet that I provided, there is a document, and I do understand it is a bit dated, but I pulled it off of the internet. And it is called the Florida Main Street, a guide to becoming a Main Street program. And what I did was I pulled some of the key factors for implementing a successful Main Street program, because ultimately what I'm presenting today is an effort to formalize a successful program, should that be the direction we want to go. So some of the key factors for implementing a successful program, we want to take a look at the district. And I believe there has been conversation about the district and how it can align with the CRA and potentially expand beyond the CRA boundaries. Community understanding and of the program and commitment to the program. Well, I think that's the purpose of this workshop today, is to make sure that everybody is aware of the purpose of the program and how it can benefit the community. Organizational readiness and financial strength, that's where I'm going to spend my most time. Are we ready? Is the program ready? How can we support it if it's not? So again, just to highlight each one of those, the district, and Catherine walked through most of this, so I don't feel the need to go through each bullet point. We understand we're focusing on our downtown district. We understand there is going to be overlaps with the CRA, and we understand that we have already had discussions about the district and how we can expand upon it for the Main Street program. Community understanding of the commitment to the Main Street. Now, this was very important. Some items that Catherine mentioned. There is a time commitment here. We're not talking an hour a month for board members. We're talking 20 hours a month for board members. And I'm going to go back to the fact that some of these organizations that we're tapping into or companies we're tapping into are serving on other boards. They're serving on the chamber board. They're volunteering for other organizations. So it is a time commitment, and you want to make sure that that commitment is solidified with those individuals and they understand there is a time commitment. So community understanding is very important. I would say that the proposed executive director has her hands full with explaining the benefits of this program and also forming that commitment with those individuals who are already serving on other boards and have volunteer hours. And we need to have work-life balance at the same time. So like I said, I want to spend a lot of time here on the organizational readiness. And so what I've provided, which should have actually been an additional slide here, was a document called Next Steps. Okay, so this is going to address what we know, what the proposed next steps would be, and what our options are if we were to formalize this program. So of course, in order to be a successful program, there has to be an adequate budget in place. There has to be the support there, and Catherine touched on that. We don't want to put the organization or the entity in a position where all they're doing is trying to raise money, fundraising, because then you're not going to see the effectiveness of the program. So how do we avoid that? Activate a board and committees. Make sure we have local government and business support. We have to have a paid professional, and at minimum, dedicated public and private funding. So you'll see that here. But what I want to focus on and what the audience is not going to see is this document that I've drafted here called Next Steps. So what do we know about the current proposed Main Street program? We know that Main Street Apopka is a registered entity within the Florida Department of State Division of Corporations. They have applied for a 501c3 status. They anticipate receiving their letter from the IRS in May. Members have been identified to participate on the executive and advisory board. The plan presented at the November 15th, 2023 meeting has been revised. It is now more in line with the 4-point approach. It enhances more community development and does not have as much emphasis on events, although events will be essential to the success of the program and to the district. The anticipated director has been attending various trainings in preparation for the accreditation process. Accreditation does require a full-time staff member. Now, I stand corrected on my next bullet point because we heard from Catherine that a $50,000 contribution is not required, but some form of contribution and commitment from the community would be required. The application period opens in June and closes in September, so we are on a time crunch. Should this be a program that we want to move forward with, we're going to need to formalize this, and whether it be a resolution or a budget line item for the next fiscal year, there has to be some sort of formal relationship with the Main Street program. So looking at the proposed next steps, my recommendation, again, it's just a recommendation, but I think before we ask the city to make a financial contribution, we need to make sure that this is going to be a solid entity, that we will not make an investment one time and then the program won't last because we don't have the commitment from the community, the time commitment, the financial commitment. We would love to see the community thrive with the Main Street program. However, if we are, as a city, investing and supporting the salary, we also need to make sure that they are raising additional funds for the activities or the menu of services that they want to provide. So this is just step one. So my recommendation to move forward with this process would be a new presentation to the city council. And I have listed here at minimum what I would like to see in this presentation so that the council can make an informed decision. The revised work plan reflecting the 4-point approach. I think that's very important because I understand the first presentation. I wasn't here to see it. I have the opportunity to watch it on YouTube. But I think that we want to take a look at how this is going to align with community development efforts and not be an event planning entity. How the program will align with the CRA and the city's mission. That's going to be extremely important because we are focusing in the same area as the CRA. A clearly written mission and vision statement. How much thought has gone into the development of this program? Is there a clearly defined mission and vision statement for this program? A roster of board and committee members. I think you may have one of these documents up there that has identified those who have already committed to participating. A template or a sample of a commitment letter or agreement with board members outlining their financial and time commitments. This is going to be essential. Again, do these board members understand that there is going to be a time commitment? Can they fit this in? Or will they decide at that point that, great idea, I'm not going to be able to participate at this time because I have other obligations? A proposed budget with funding sources identified. I think that is key. I think that you will see there is going to be a request to the city, but what additional funding is available? What has been identified? Have there been any commitments from any other entities so that we can show there is community buy-in? Yes, you can have the volunteer hours, but does the community have skin in the game outside of just the city supporting it? A list of any in-kind contributions and a staff position description. I would say once we've received that presentation, if the council decided to move forward with funding this, we have options, and you address some of this. And the purpose for the table that I have provided there that shows the accredited cities. Unfortunately, I did not find all of the information for every accredited city, but what you will see there is examples for 7 of them. And yes, there are higher dollar amounts for those with larger populations and more activities occurring in their communities. But there are options, and I would agree that we need to speak with the city attorney to determine if CRA funding can support this. But what I have found and provided in the documentation for you are 3 examples of how cities are utilizing CRA dollars to support this program. With those dollars, there are defined activities. The CRA dollars will not support salaries, overhead expenses, or events. So it would be a clear agreement between the Main Street program and the CRA identifying specific activities for performance. This could also be paid through general funds. You'll see in that list that I've provided, there are cities who pay this as a partnership support. It's in line with your contribution to the Chamber of Commerce, to a Boys and Girls Club, or any other community organization. So it can be paid out of general funds, and there wouldn't be restrictions on how it could be utilized. It could also be done in the form of in-kind contributions, office space, office equipment, whatever the case may be, or a combination if we wanted to do this out of the general funds and then also have some in-kind contributions. So at minimum, the city, my recommendation, should have at least 2 liaisons to this for this organization, whether it be board members or liaisons. And I would recommend a city commissioner, as well as either your your economic development director or CRA director, one or the other, whichever one you choose. but at minimum, that's going to make sure you have that alignment. That's going to be the liaison who comes back to the city, to the commission meetings and speaks to what's going on with the Main Street program. As that's going to show the relationship and the commitment from the city. So I will also tell you that I've seen other structures where cities do not have Main Street programs. They have a downtown district, and it's a different division of the city itself. I've seen where CRA directors serve as the Main Street director. I've seen where there is a CRA and a Main Street that work hand in hand, and I've seen where a CRA is serving some of this purpose as well. So there are different business models for how we can accomplish what was presented today. My presentation is not to encourage or discourage the support of this, but to basically provide the necessary information for the council to make an informed decision. So I'm open for questions.
All right. Mr. Velasquez?
I'm glad that you gave us this kind of template because it allows us to kind of understand our roles in it. I do like that you said, you know, to have a commissioner involved and be kind of the, you know, go to the meetings and be invested in that. And the economic developer director, you know, we just hired you. So absolutely, and just from your presentation, I think that you have very strong, you know, leadership in that. So that would be greatly appreciated. Basically, I'm going to review this, and I do remember when we did have Main Street first come to us. I have the one from December 6th, and I remember that was the first time that it was actually March of 2023. This has been.
That's a little early. So
It
that
was.
would have come from me.
Yeah, but it has kind of evolved from that, and I appreciate that, you know, it has changed the board members and all that, and has more of an inclusive.
Is your mic on? Is your mic on?
Oh, okay, I see it. There it is. That's because I was coughing and I didn't want to cough into the mic. Well, I don't want to repeat everything I said, but basically, I like your recommendations that you are making, and I don't know how soon we start. I just want to verify because at that time we did allocate $50,000. Is that still something that we've allocated for the Main Street when we first were introduced to it?
No.
No?
It was discussed, but I don't think we ever officially.
No, we didn't officially.
I think we kind of earmarked or discussed or said once we get a little more information, we'll be able to move forward. It was
I wanted
never-
some clarity on that, because I do remember that $50,000. And then I don't remember if we said yes, no, or if we voted it in. But that was the first time that they were introducing us to the Main Street, the idea of the Main Street. Okay, so that's something that we can discuss, I guess, at a later time. So basically, I just want to say thank you for this template and hope we can start working on this as soon as possible.
Mr. Smith?
I guess my first question was, do we already have an office established?
We have an office space, yes, that we're renting.
Yes.
It's not really conducive to meeting, so to speak, but we do have an office address here in downtown.
All right. And have you already started soliciting donations from other individuals in support of Main Street?
Yes, we have. We did get our solicitation certificate from the
Can you
Department of
come up
Agriculture.
to this? Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. I have a loud voice, but I know the cameras can't pick me up. So yes, we have started soliciting for contributions, whether it's in a sponsorship form or donation, public, some public entities and some private individuals. And we have received since January $2,585, and it's growing every single day, it seems. So we're really excited about that. But we did receive our contribution certificate from the Department of Agriculture. So as soon as we got that, we started building out sponsorship packets and just some of the easy things that we could do.
All right. And then I noticed it says the application process opens in June. March is almost gone.
Yes.
So if this is something that we're going to do, I think we need to get started yesterday. I think you answered all the questions, and I like the format you presented, and I like the recommendations that you suggested as well. So let's do it.
Commissioner Nesta?
I appreciate, obviously, your information and all that. Sorry, I jumped the gun a little bit. Tend to do that, so sorry in advance for that. A couple of quick questions. You're in reference to the application process or accreditation, you're saying it's competitive in the sense of the requirements for accreditation, or is it only a select few per year get accredited?
So that was something I found online, and I don't want to pretend to be the expert. So I'm going to turn to Catherine and ask her if she would like to address that question.
Thank you. And Commissioner, that's a good question in terms of understanding what the relevance of that accreditation means. The first 3 years of program comes into the Main Street environment. They actually work as an apprentice community because it really takes that first 3 years of foundational structure for them to develop what they need. At the end of that 3 years, they should be in a position to be determined to be accredited. That means they're meeting certain standards. And these are standards that are set. There are two accreditations. One is a Florida Main Street accreditation, which is very impact-based. The other one is National Main Street, which is more philosophically based. So there are two accreditation levels that they can achieve at the end of that 3-year period. Now, programs will go through highs, lows, and plateaus. And you may have a program that is achieving, 3 or 4 years. They're doing well. Something happens, COVID, something happens, and they kind of lose that. I mean, and we saw that during COVID. We saw great boards fall apart. And so those programs actually went back into an affiliate position because there are some things they needed to work on. So that accreditation to that community is not just something we hand out. It is something that is earned and has to be maintained every year, and there are standards that are attached to that accreditation.
Okay, thank you. And then if I can follow up a question on that, you're saying it's an apprentice community. So do we have, I guess, when we go to Main Street Chattahoochee, will they be mentoring to us, or is it like a Florida Main Street that's mentoring us, or what does that look like?
So the mentorship is built within the organization. The technical assistance and primary mentorship comes from us. However, we are broken into regions. And so in a region, you have other programs here you can reach out to. And then you have, of course, the statewide network you can reach out to on issues. You also have the national network. We are connected nationally by the point so that when programs run into issues that maybe someone hasn't seen in this region, you can throw it out nationally. And generally, you're going to get a response from somewhere that somebody has seen this issue.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I really appreciate that. I may have a question for you additionally there, Mrs. Beck. So for grant availability, anything like that, is that something we can get up front? What does that look like for us, or what type of funds are available for
Let me
us?
talk to you about grants, and I'm not the grant supervisor. So what happens with our programs when they come in from Florida Main Street, they get it at this point, it's a $10,000 technical assistance budget for that first 3 years. Now, I'm actually in the process of trying to kick that up a little bit because the last 2 years, that $10,000 isn't going as far as it was, right? That usually is used for things more like branding, website creation, visioning, maybe some very rudimentary streetscaping, those type of things. It depends on what the program needs. Now, once you come in as a Main Street, you have what we call small matching grants through the department. Those are up to $50,000. Main Street gets a waiver on a match. So they don't have to come up with a match amount on small matching. And so there are a lot of different applications that can be applied for under that small matching grant. They can be in the forms of historic survey and our designations. They can be for planning. They can be, education materials. There are a lot of opportunities within that small grant arena to pull resources in. What I try to get my communities to do, and some do it better than others, is kind of stair step that ask so that every year you're building on the ask, and so you've got your program laid out, you know what direction you want to go, and we're building so that you're taking advantage of the ability to access this funding every year.
Absolutely. Okay. Thank you. I appreciate that.
Sure.
In reference to, we spoke about office space. You have one now. You said it wasn't exactly what you need. I guess what does that look like, and what would you want, I guess?
Well, ideally, we would love to have the very basics of a conference room so that when we're meeting as committees or boards, or when we're meeting with you folks, if you guys want to come to our office or other stakeholders, we want to have a place in downtown that we can meet and potentially walk some of the areas. So something very, very local to our, I'm going to say, historic parts of downtown. We don't want to venture too far away from, Park and Central and all of that. So at the very basics, that internet access would be nice if you want to talk about a wish list. But other than that, just 4 walls and a roof.
Okay, thank you. I think that's all my questions. Thank you so much for your time on all of this information here. This is very useful. And it's my understanding we will be posting this information online.
Absolutely.
Okay, perfect. I am very thankful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Well, thank you, Michelle. Appreciate all your research. And Catherine, again, thank you for coming down and being a part of this workshop. So we appreciate it. With that, we'll close the meeting off.